Hello and welcome to my report of how the 9th session of my ongoing Only War campaign went. Where last we left off, there had been an awful lot of confusion, and this session cleared up some of that confusion, but was very interesting. The players were brought to the grounds of the subsector's governor's palace, at least initially, and they started to socialise with some of the people. After a few days, accommodations have been made available to them, and they got the impression, like, it wasn't like the last time. This time, although they had serviceable rooms, it wasn't the luxurious rooms they had before, and these places seem to have gone under recent renovation. If you recall, the last time they were there, they had spotted that some areas that they weren't going into, they'd seen just through doors. A lot of areas were in a state of disrepair, but now before there was a sense of emptiness I tried to convey there. Now there were lots of people coming and going. Even after they were brought to the palace, it was a long time before they were brought to see the subsector governor. And as they went along, they were attempting to find out more, to find out what they should do, to find out what the hell had happened. And talking to various individuals, and I mean various individuals, we're talking to subsector governor, the head commissar, well, one of the highest commissars they could find anyway. They were able to piece together several events. The Lord Marshal Ganzarek had denounced many of the people as heretics in the Imperial Guard. They said they were corrupt, and in the name of the Emperor and St. Drusus, they should be cleansed. In response to this, the subsector governor took control of the Imperial Guard, as is his right, and he put out a rallying call. Then Colonel Reich of the Deck Corps of Krieg made a separate rallying call in the name of the subsector governor, in the name of the sector governor, sector governor Hacks. This got confusing for our players too, because there's so many subsector governors and it's like, yeah. Unfortunately it does, but he was operating outside his means. But as they found out when they were talking to the sector governor, the subsector governor, that Lord Sector Hacks had condoned this action and decried that the subsector governor and all those who had allied with him were heretics and recidivists. Technically, he shouldn't be doing that without any kind of a proof, but he's using the proof that he called people, even though it was in his own means. By the book, he shouldn't have necessarily done that. But as he put it himself, they had tried to make overtures with the Deck Corps of Krieg, but they'd failed. There were members of the Deck Corps of Krieg who had responded to order from the subsector governor, so someone unified the whole Deck Corps of Krieg, but this guy was a colonel of a regiment, and he had done this. And that Lord Sector Hacks had elevated him to the position of Lord Marshal and denounced the Lord Marshal Ganzarek. So you have the former Lord Marshal Ganzarek, and you have the new Lord Marshal Reich. So things are only getting more complicated and convoluted politically. So legally, as the players are able to discern, the subsector governor was allowed to do this. And that Lord Sector Hacks is operating outside the conventional things, but now he's condemned it. They're all nobles, they're all familiar with politics. It's, can he pull this through? Even though it's illegal, can he pull this off? Can he get away with it? And they also found out that the troubles on cult were also all over the Spinward front, that this was happening all over. And that this wasn't just happening on the Spinward front, this is happening all over the Calixis sector. Spoilers, gentlemen and ladies. several of my players have a suspicion of what's happening in the wider events. This is one of the big spoilers that happens, that they mention in the book, which I think is unfair for a Dark Heresy adventure. But I ran an adventure, but the players never got to finish it. The third part was never out. So I ended it with a bit of a resolution at the end of the second part, so they know some of the stuff that's happened. So there's a lot of build up, and due to various things that have happened from running different games, there's a lot of divisions, and the whole of Calix's sector, ecclesiarchy, has been fractured. So I'm bringing elements of all these things in, which will become more apparent as I talk throughout how the future sessions go, more than likely. The players found out this is happening on Kinog amongst other worlds, though on Kinog it's not as severe as some other worlds. But now, as they understand it, amongst the wider Imperium, it's likely that they're being seen as the heretics, or they're being seen as the ones who do wrong because Lord Sector Sensing. And there was serious talk of saying, let's defect to the Death Corps of Krieg led faction. There were serious talks about this. They were like, we can't be on the side of recidivists and heretics, but they said, well, has he necessarily done something wrong? And there was huge debates. I think this session went down about 4 hours, and there's about half an hour of combat. That was it. I'm not sure if it was even half an hour of combat. Yeah, probably about half an hour of combat. Combat can take a while sometimes. But that was complete towards the end of the session. But there was big talks like, what are we going to do if in fact it's not going to be easy at this stage. It's possible it's not going to be easy. But they were really confused. They were saying, oh well, why can't we just have the guys community? It's like the subsector governor himself said, we've tried to send guys out. Sergeant McBrand there, while he was talking, he was trying to be frank with him. Politically it didn't work out very well. He was saying, oh well, who's legally, who's at the highest chain of command, we should follow this. Is like, well, he's like, well, as far as the subsector governor is concerned, he's like, I'm gonna be killed. So yeah, I'm not happy with this current state of affairs at all, because I am and my family are getting screwed over. It's not fair. What the hell is this crap? That it seems blatantly obvious from his point of view that Colonel Krieg, the Colonel of the Death Corps Krieg, Colonel Reich, now newly minted Lord Marshal Reich, who had jumped a hell of a lot of ranks suddenly in the Imperial Guard, was clearly had intended this as a political move, as a gamble, and it's paid off because Lord Sector Hax has jumped upon it. What Commissar Barker knows that the others didn't, he found out because he's a Commissar, and the, I think, Company or Brigade Commissar, Commissar LePew, he told him that he informed him that he informed him, and only him, that he thought potentially Lord Sector Hax had made this decision before everything was apparent. That the entire Spinward front could have been resolved years ago, except for the Marching Crusade is also a cover and where the troops being sent for. He didn't tell him every detail about it, but that these troops are, that potentially Lord Sector Hax saw as an even great way to intensify the drumming up of troops, that not just there are orcs there, but there's recidivists there, without knowing exactly all the details with regard to the Lord Marshal Ganzeric and his rebellion, and that he obviously made his decision before it's gone wider. As far as Commissar LePew was concerned, and yes, he is named after Pepe Le Pew, but he's not silly. I just chose the name of Le Pew as that Garrett brand. Shows he's from a different kind of a culture. Just when I had to come up with something off the top of my head when they were asking about these things. And as far as he was concerned, they should be fighting with the Lord Marshal. However, they should be fighting with Lord Marshal Reich. However, he did not like the political elements being brought in here. He thought they were wrong. They were not in the best interest of Imperium, and he wished to guide. He was sitting on amongst the forces of the subsector governor gathered, but he wished to do whatever he could to bring the forces back into the fold, and if it wasn't for the politicking of Lord Sector hacks, it would be an easy job, because the sub-sector governor was blatantly saying, was like, if I wasn't being declared a heretic, I'd be more than happy to hand over the forces, but this is an option for me. The players are given a mission. Unfortunately, the frank honesty of Sergeant McBrander didn't earn my favours when talking to the sub-sector governor. But he still respected his being honest about it. It just didn't win him any extra political, any huge amount of extra political clout. He could a lot better while they're talking there. The players, Commissar Barker was talked about a sub-sector governor. He's like, how do you think they'll do if they're put up against other units? Like, oh well, obviously they don't want to fight other humans. Like, yeah, but none of the guardsmen want to fight other humans. They all just want, let's just fight the orcs. Because that's everyone going, why can't we just fight the orcs? Because those guys over there are going to shoot us. It's a mess. So he gave them a mission against the Drussian forces. And they were to be given a few pieces of gear. They were supposed to be dropped out of Valkyrie. They were given grav shoots. They all have athletic trained, so I'm saying, yeah, you know how to use these things. You know, standard issue for you, but you've been shown how to use grav shoots, which are like these little belt things and let you slow down your descent when you're going down. So they've got these, and they were supposed to be given a bunch of demolition charges, and I think so, like a multi-key and a few other things, but they didn't do terribly well in the roll for getting their equipment. Unfortunately, they ended up with, instead of the explosives and multi-key, they still got a jammer, so this would jam the frequencies of these guys, which could be quite helpful, especially since the location they were attacking was effectively a refurbished radio station. Or some kind of area where they had a radio tower anyway, and that this was blasting propaganda out, and they were losing men. They were having defectors, so they were to go in with the jammer. This should, you know, hamper their thing. They would be able to get past it eventually, but it would hamper their thing and mess up the localized communications to prevent them going in. They just had to go in, blow something, didn't declare everyone there. Just had to get in, do the damage, you know, stop this to make this thing not operational for a few days while they got things, and get out. But instead of the explosives, which they needed, and the multi-key, which they were obviously going to need, sorry about the background noise, they were given a duffel bag full of dirty laundry, and this is rolling up in the chart periodically, and a barrel, a 200-litre barrel of Promethium. And that's when the players decided to start getting creative. Because I hadn't planned this. This was the rolling up in the charts, so you know it's not completely unlikely to occur to people to do this, but it was still like I wasn't expecting, because this is just rolling up on the spot. The players decided that they were going to convince the Valkyrie pilot, who wasn't too keen on it. He thought it was somewhat suicidal, but they were, between their reputations and the presence of a commissar, to fly over the enemy location, and that they would have some of these dirty laundry pushed into the barrel, and that they were going to push it off the side and use it like a fuel air bomb or something like that. That was going to hit the ground, and then they were going to have Trooper Jorgensen shoot at it if it hit the ground and blown up. Because, you know, a couple of long las rounds into this thing, even though it's slightly armoured because it's a Promethium barrel, one shot you'll probably do it. If not, 2 or 3 will definitely get it. And they started doing some practicing in the time coming up to this. As best they could. They weren't able to get like a barrel to be chucking outside and for shooting out, but they're still trying to, like, you know, practice aiming, you know. And what happened was they didn't succeed perfectly, but it exploded in midair before it went down and covered a lot of the base in fire. Then the guys jumped out the back, they came down, they started firing off all their weapons. The first thing they saw was, because I said, okay, any of the guys on the ground are just dead. I was going to throw a penitent engine using the stats and blood of martyrs at them, but I said, I'm just going to throw it at you. It's already on fire and it's taking a bunch of damage. And say that, but I was like, it's on fire, it's screaming, I was going for it. Commissar Barca charged in and started attacking close combat. It's like, oh, the prior to this, before they went on, they were given their mission by their captain, who had been promoted to a colonel. And he previously, that the night before, he had his new promotions called up, and he asked to meet Sergeant McBrander alone. And he asked him his opinion of it, because, like, you know, you're the PCs, you should have some sway or different things. Plus, you're respected, so that should count for something, even though, you know, you're not this high up command squad or whatever. But he informed him, he basically, like, you know, what do you think we should be doing? He's like, look, it's not an ideal circumstance, but it actually, in the moments before, when he was talking to him, suddenly it came up to Sergeant McBrander's mind, and he kind of said, you know, somebody else did what's wrong. That doesn't mean we should go off doing things. We should stick to our guns about this. We shouldn't be changing sides. We should fight the enemies of the Emperor, and we can deal this crap later. He phrased it much better than this, but it was basically, you know, somebody else did something really bad, and we shouldn't be condoning this. We should be fighting the enemies. So, like, it's so hard. He said it so well. He said it so well at the time, and it's been a few days since I saw it. So, it's just eluding me now. But the colonel had been made the captain had been made a colonel, and he promoted Sergeant McBrander and the guys up to the rank. He promoted Sergeant McBrander to lieutenant, and they were going to keep him as a special squad. Corporal Jorgensen became Sergeant Jorgensen, and Trooper Love became Corporal Love. They were given a plasma gun, a melta gun, and a power sword. That's new things with their rank. Out of character, Commissar Barca and Sergeant McBrander rock, paper, scissors for who gets the power sword. Sergeant McBrander won, and he put it to good use against that penitent intention, because Commissar Barca was like hitting these, getting righteous furies and other things, but it was really tough for him. Whereas Sergeant McBrander comes over to the power sword, and he's just carving this thing apart. And he finished carving it apart as this squad of guys comes around the corner. There's a squad of 10 guys, and they've got las carbines and flak armor. And the guys bring their weapons to bear. They're way better equipped than these guys. They've got deadlight las guns and full guard flak armor. And they start mowing these guys down. These guys break. Oh, you had a great moment of Sergeant McBrander charging forward, just barreling straight towards them, and he's full run got them to within about 2 meters, which is point blank range. So I described in their turn, first half action, they all semi-autoed at him. Second half action, they step back, they're moving back from him. You know, it's like, well, you do look scary, you're crazy guy. They turn around the corner, it's you know, basically doing the finishing blow on a penitent engine, chopping it up yourself, and Commissar Barca, and of course there's the melta plasma gun firing as well. With Sergeant Jorgensen came this close to hitting Commissar Barca. He spent a fate point reroll. He was this close, and he almost got the exact same roll, but he just missed. So that was a bit kind of a especially because Commissar Barca had screwed up his roll to land. He'd screwed up the athletics roll, and he'd taken quite a substantial number of wounds, so a melta gun shot would have really messed him up. I had actually previously the sessions, because the guys had picked a side, I gave them a fate point. I said, this is a big turning point, this is one of the big things in the campaign where you get a really, because in Imperial Guard you're not going to get choices about a lot of different things, but this is one of those, you know, until you get to higher ranks, and even at higher ranks there's always someone above you. You get more freedom in certain respects, but in other respects you're getting less freedom. But there was one of the big choices in the campaign where they and as I said, it's like, you can go, you know, I was, if they had sided with the McCabe Janissaries, they decided with McCabe Janissaries, like, which they did initially, but if they'd stuck with them, that was for a very brief period. But the guys from Fort Long Lads being fired, just fired bang 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 by the by Sergeant Jorgensen, Lieutenant McBrandy going forward, the power sword goes in. But when he was charging forward that turn, they all fired, and so many of them hit. He managed to dodge one or two, but we're still looking at 5 las bolts coming in and hitting him. He's like, oh, I'm screwed. But he's got a toughness bonus of 5, and he's got best quality flak armor. So they have to do like 11 points of damage to hurt him. So they have to roll an 8 on a d10. But this is still 5 of the damn shots coming in. But it's like boom, boom, as I roll them out, and I said, you know, hasn't hurt you. Hasn't hurt you. Like, you know, these are obviously sting, they're painful, they're going to leave burn marks. But these are not taking wounds off. And he was delighted because he was thought, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. He was saying, oh, I'll go, you know, he was originally saying, oh, I'll go for this. Oh, no, I'll go into point blank range, he'll shoot me, I'll be screwed. But he was saying, oh, look, I'll just go into cover. I said, look, is that really what you want to do? Because it would be pretty cool if you went forward. He said, screw it, I'll go forward. So he charges forward. And there's been a couple of moments like that, and his player can be crazy, but sometimes he gets very disheartened. It's like, you know, screw it, go with it. Your guy's a pretty tough guy, you'll probably take a few wounds. But the fact he took no wounds, and just him charging this thing down. Remember, he's got half, like a chunk of his head is bionic, and he's got the red glowing eye. And he comes in, starts carving. Commissar Barker comes in, starts carving through these guys as well. Commissar Barker is, if you could liken, let's say, look through the players, how they're fighting at the moment. You have Sergeant McBrander, sorry, Lieutenant McBrander, really promoted, is vicious. He just comes along, and he's an unstoppable killing machine. I think to a lot of lower down opponents anyway, like guys at their level and below. He just seems to, damage doesn't seem to phase him, and he just keeps coming. He starts carving through people, especially with this new power sword. The chainsword he was doing similar things anyway. And he's just slow, unstoppable. He is dead, and he is coming for you, and nothing will stop him. You can run. That is your option, because you will not take him down. But Commissar Barker, not as unstoppable, but he is still an intimidating figure on the battlefield. But he's just so fast, it's so dead to his way, because he actually has swift attack and lightning attack, which Sergeant Predator isn't, because he's got a toughness bonus of 5 and a whole lot of wounds. Those cost XP, so he just keeps coming at people. But Commissar Barker just carving through the guys. Just, he took off the heads of 2 enemy guardsmen in one turn. Just bam, bam, dead. Takes them both down. Trooper Jorgensen is just vicious with his long glass. He's just time and again has done tremendous amounts of damage with it. Sometimes he's used other weapons, like he will use his death light at times, which he can put to good effect. But on the battlefield, he lines up a shot, he shoots, and there's a very good chance if he's got you in his scopes, you're dead. Sometimes he misses, sometimes you'll dodge. But he's just picking away the toughest target, or the target needs to go down. When Lieutenant McBrander says, take it down, he's one of the guys who very much lays in the damage, tries to take him down. Trooper Love, unfortunately, he's kind of a crazy homicidal maniac. I mean, he was the most eager, he wasn't in at this session, but he is the guy who just lays in the damage. He is the guy who does those damage, but he's also a good guy, and we've all been there sometimes, who he's doing loads of damage, but everyone else is getting the goddamn kill. He shoots the flamer, he's injuring a load of people, but he doesn't kill them with it, and everyone else gets the kill. He's so angry because things, he'll flame them, but then Commissar Barker and Lieutenant McBrander will get into close combat. We're like, God damn it, I heard it, but I can't flame them again. Oh, and he's got the melt gun. He'll usually, like when he has the melt gun on several missions, he usually gets it. He'll fire it, but it's usually gets something really tough to can stand one melt gun hit. But he will cripple them with it because he's really good. But he is just vicious and tenacious the way he fights. Medic Blackthrone, I said to his player, because he hadn't been showing up for quite some time, I sent him a text saying, you know, I haven't seen you in a while. And he didn't show up to that session. I said, well, I'm just going to, you know, remove your character. And I had removed him in the previous session, but I'm just keeping him removed. And it's, you know, a lot of time has passed now for the guy since he was last there. So they still have his comrade there. So like, oh, is the comrade there? I was like, yeah, the comrade's still there. She's not really able to do much. but the comrade's there. And it was pretty cool seeing the guys fight, because it was really one of those ones, like the Penitent Engine was just horrendous for them to fight, although Commodore Barker luckily went to close combat and risked his life because he was already really badly damaged. If this thing had hit him, he'd be dead if he couldn't get out of the way. But if he hadn't gotten in, this thing had 2 heavy flamers and it could have just, the fate points could have easily been burned. But he went in and he got stuck in and he took them and he took it down. But them fighting against this Nomiers, it was a cool thing for the players in one respect, but a very sad thing in another respect. On the one hand, they got to see, hey, we're actually really good at messing this guy. You know, we're actually just carving through these guys. These are Red Guardsmen. Sure, they're a light infantry regiment, but we're carving through them. We're barely breaking a sweat. Everyone had a cool moment in that fight. But on the other hand, once they got close to them, and they weren't having the shadows and the flames flickering all over, once they were able to get closer, and once Sergeant Jorgensen was looking down the sight of the scope, they could see that these were members of the Bronte Longknives, the regiment they'd fought before. They checked the bodies and they were happy to see that none of these guys were people they knew, because they've interacted with NPCs range and they know everyone's been broken in their head. But I think that's one of the things they're really dreading, that sooner or later they're going to be walking along after victory and they're going to see someone they know. And they had actually previously seen someone they just didn't even know the name of, but they're going to see someone they really remember, and they're like, I really hope it. Like, they've actually mentioned specific NPCs and gone, I really hope we don't see Lieutenant Jimmy, the guy who's a black market guy. I really hope, you know, particular Sergeant Jorgensen, I really hope we don't see Monique, because his character had been sleeping with this member of the Bronte Longknives. Like, it wasn't anything serious, but it's this thing that's there. But still, they managed to see the mission, and they managed to mess this thing up once they went inside. Actually, it was then when I think they went inside, they actually saw someone, Lieutenant McMahon there saw someone he had seen in a corridor at one point, and it shook him, and it shook all of them, like, going through him there, because, you know, once the adrenaline faded, they're like, yeah, we are fighting against guardsmen, this is horrible. But because, like, you know, civil wars are horrible. It doesn't matter if you're on one side of a civil war and you think you're on the right side, because of course everyone thinks they're on the right side, and it doesn't matter even if you are, like, if you have 99% of people point out, yes, you're on the right side, you are still fighting against your own people, regardless of what side you're on. And I didn't want this to become something light. These are people, you know, they might not have never seen their faces or their names. This is still something horrible, and they're angry and upset in character. It's a very cool way to go with it, because it's very cool to see how the characters reacting to the different ways. But it was still really cool that they came up like, oh, we've been given the wrong equipment, but they figured out a way of, hey, let's do this even better. The fact that they were able to kill so many guys, and obviously there was more guys that were in the base than that, but because they had the communications jammer, the enemy weren't able to really coordinate that well, because they didn't know what was going on. All they knew was that there was a huge fire spread suddenly. There was an explosion, and fire spread, so, and the communication system was down. But after a huge explosion, maybe, you know, but they managed to destroy this place, and they came back, and yeah, I'm happy with how the game is going now. I had 7 sessions of the build-up. It was always coming to this divide, and the players still don't understand everything that's going on. And then they're an Imperial Guard, so they probably never will, but they have more of an understanding of what's going on now, or at least filter through the various sources they've had it, because everyone's got their own opinion, everyone's got their own bias, and the guys in character understand that and understand that out of character. But they're building up. This is the kind of dilemmas I wanted to be throwing them into to make for an interesting game. It's going to be a different game in other ways, because you can have factionalism in any game, particularly in like Dark Heresy, which is the first one going off, but this one, the players are going to make big choices. Sometimes. It's like, you're an Imperial Guard, you don't always get big choices, but they got to make big choices there. And I'm really happy with how it's going. I'm really happy the players who are there seem to really be enjoying it. Not everyone can make it the whole time, I get that, but it's very cool, and I have high hopes that this is going to be one of those games where, because you always talk back about games, but there's a couple of those games where you always talk back about for years to come. We all have them. Like, there's some games that are cherished memories, and I really hope this is going to become one of those games. I've run lots of games, some will become decent, some will be like, they've been fun, but by providing unique situations and options for the players, I'm really hopeful of how things are going to go. As to where this is all going to lead, I have some ideas, but as our heroes gain stature, they gain influence over the course of events, and we'll have to see what way they go. Will Lieutenant McBrander ever achieve the position of rogue trader, though it's not seen with as much rose tinted glass as it once was? Sergeant Jorgensen has achieved to a degree an ambition of becoming a poster boy, but perhaps one without such a tarnish assigned to it. Will poor Commissar Barca ever get that cushy assignment he was looking for? Because it's not shaping up to be. No, he should have gone with a different regiment on the other side of the galaxy, but no, he went with the nobles, and he was a PC, so stuff was going to happen. And poor Corporal Love, he just wants to kill people, and now he's got Lieutenant McBrander given out to him. He's like, you told us to push forward, and we received opposition. Pushing suggests aggression, it suggests violence. As he prepared, we know what a character he prepared. He just wants to kill these guys, which is a very, very, very mean way to go, but it's still fun, it's still a game. Engisir Kasugi only gets to drop in from time to time, but he seems to be enjoying the way things are going along. And I've talked to his player, and his player is going, his character going, crazy mortals to let them, crazy regular guys, let them fight it out. He currently doesn't have the option to extract for the situation, but he's got his excuses lined up. Because you know what, he was, as I said, yeah, you didn't get the choice the guys made, because you're just going to have to be there where the other pieces are, because it's not running a separate game for you whenever you show up. So you were just at the palace when stuff went down, so it was very difficult for you to defect. You don't have the skill set, you recognise this. You're just trying to keep everything intact from whenever the proper Imperium surfaces. And poor Medic Blackthrone taken off by mysterious individual backed up by stormtroopers. Will we ever see from him again? As time lengthens, it looks far less likely, but perhaps his tale isn't finished. I'll look forward to seeing you again and telling you about how the war on the Spinward front continues, at least in my Spinward front, which is a bit different from normal. I'll see you again. Goodbye.